Today we're going to talk about two modes of practice within Wang Liping's system of internal alchemy. And those two modes are, in Chinese we call WENYANG, which means to a nurturing mode, to nurture something, right? Warmly nurture something. And then its counterpart is Wang Liping terms it HUOPIN. And HUOPIN in Chinese isn't used much in modern Chinese, but it basically has a connotation of aggression, right? In modern Chinese, it's used for to denote fighting between different factions. So it's a specialized sort of battle language, and it's not used much in modern Chinese. I never used the term in modern Chinese myself when I speak Chinese. And so basically the two modes are nurture and more aggressive style of cultivation. And within Wang Liping's Longmenpai system, we use both. So there are times when we want to approach the practice from a more passive, more yin way of practicing that nurtures the energies in the body, nurtures the mind, nurtures and allows things to grow naturally, following their own accord. This can also be in Chinese talk, in alchemical texts, talked about as SHEN, to follow the course of things, right? And this, I think it's safe, it's a good starting point for I think probably pretty much everybody. And it's a great, it's a great way to practice, and I'll talk a bit more what the characteristics of that practice would be like. However, there is also another mode of practice, and you can think of it as if you're driving, not that people drive less and less these days, but driving stick standard, right? You shift the gear when you're going up a steep mountain. You pull the gear down, get some more power, and then really give it, right? And so that's the HUOPIN, and it's a more aggressive form of training. And it's often what we do on retreats with Wang Liping, and it's often what I teach in my workshops. And it's used when we want to get things done, when we want to get results and really make inroads into the practice, right? And so kind of having a passive approach to our practice, practicing it every day, but practicing in the more nurturing style is great, right? But sometimes, once we have a certain amount of foundation, we can level up our practice, right? We can apply a more aggressive style to our practice. Now I realize that for often in sort of spiritual traditions, and especially here in the West, the idea of aggression and going for results, right? This sort of language might be off-putting. So I present it, and it's up to you whether you like it or not. But it is important. I think for myself, in terms of my teachers and my own path, there is a path. And there is something to do. There is somewhere to go. There is a process with these spiritual arts. We are on a path, right? There is a bettering. There is a process. I've seen in my own almost 25 years now of my own practice, where I've come. And it definitely is a path. And I think, the Buddhists are good with that, and the Taoists and these other spiritual traditions, traditionally we're okay with that and saw it in that way. I think one thing is understanding what are healthy goals and what are not, right? What are ego-driven goals and what are goals that are furthering your MING, your destiny. And that takes wisdom to understand the difference, right? If we're pushing towards a certain goal, because we want to show off, or it's ego driven, right? So there's an imbalance there, right? It's being motivated by some wounding inside ourselves, then that's going to take us into a certain direction, right? And then if you apply an aggressive mode of practice on top of that, it can really steer you off in the wrong direction. But if the goal is a good, worthy goal, it's taking us forward in our path. What Taoists talk about destiny, our MING, what we're here in this life to do. Then go for it, right? And that might take effort. We might need to strive and work towards that goal. It's a paradox, right? Understanding when to use effort and when to follow more wu wei or effortless action, right? It's very tricky to figure that out. And having a good teacher can help. Another distinction I would like to make is the sense of having a goal is healthy, right? In our life, it's good to have goals, career goals, school, goals in terms of relationships, family, whatever these things are. We're in a 3D time and space dimension. We're embodied beings, and these physical body, there's certain rules that come along with that, right? Maybe from the ultimate perspective of spirit, or wherever that perspective is, things change, right? But when we're talking about it as embodied beings, right? Then having goals is okay. And this is the distinction. I'm kind of going around the point right now. But there's a distinction between setting a goal and being attached to that goal. I think attachment is where problems can arise within our practice, right? So it's okay to throw goals out there on the horizon and say, okay, you know what? That sounds awesome, or that feels awesome. You use your intuition or however process you come about to get that goal. And then work towards it. But don't be attached to it, and be flexible, right? Things might change. You might end up going off in that direction or that direction, right? Think of it as a three-dimensional landscape. If you're trying to get to the top of the mountain, going straight might just hit you right into a cliff that you can't go up, right? You might need to kind of go this way and then find a path that way and then go over that way. And the only way to figure that out is to just start towards the goal and be flexible and not attached to what it's going to look like to get there, right? So anyways, back to the theme of this talk. We have a nurturing mode of practice. We have a more aggressive mode of practice. And something else that's really important in terms of for us practitioners is understanding when to shift back and forth between those two modes of practice. If we only use the aggressive mode of practice, that's going to run into problems in terms of internal alchemy. If we're firing stuff too much, we can burn the pot. It's like if you're in the kitchen and if the fire's on too much, right? Or you don't have enough ingredients in the pot, you're going to burn it. The pot here being the cauldron, the ding. So we don't want to burn the pot, right? But you do want to get heat. No heat, you're not going to have interaction, you're not going to have change, you're not going to have transformation. So nurturing is good, and I think nurturing is a good baseline, but then we can also shift gears into a more aggressive form of practice. And if you are a student of Wang or myself, then a more aggressive form of practice would be what we usually do on retreats. Other than the fasting retreats, the bigu retreats, right? The normal retreats, especially when you're doing a lot of body pore breathing, you're working with the spaces in the body, the lower abdominal cavity, really going for it with the breathing techniques, contracting, expanding, really going for it. Then that's HUOPIN. That's a more aggressive form of practice, right? Especially when you're working with the inner cavity and you're compressing and expanding the whole inner cavity. You're doing that for various reasons. I remember I was walking with Wang in Austria. It was during an Austrian retreat. beautiful occasion just north of Innsbruck, in the mountains there in the Austrian Alps. And we were chatting, and he said it's kind of a way to think about this is image of your, with the HUOPIN, the more aggressive approach, you're squeezing it until something pops out. And the thing that pops out is your yang shen, which is the yang spirit, right? And that's a way of practicing this. And he said, when you use the wenyang, the more nurturing approach to the practice, then it's more like you're allowing, it's like an onion where the layers of the onion just sort of fall away. You know, they melt away, they fall away until all that's left is your yang shen, right? And so there are different modes of practice. And it can be tricky to know ourselves as practitioners when to do which. But that's where intuition and experience really comes in, and a good teacher. If you're feeling tense and worn out from your practice, then it's probably time to shift gears, right? Go for a more nurturing approach. And a nurturing approach to the practice would be a lot more silent sitting. It would also be, you can still do some breathing practices or working with some of the methods, but it would just be more like breathing with the lower space, right? Just following the breath, right? Very sort of nurturing, gentle, a gentle mode of practice, right? It could even be working with the lower field, the lower dantian, the xiatian, but it's not that one method is aggressive, another method is nurturing. There is some distinction there, but it's more just how we apply the methods, right? These methods can be applied in so many different ways. And likewise, if you're really going for the nurturing approach, but you're kind of you're flatlining in your practice, you're not progressing, right? There is a path. Then you might want to shake things up by shifting gears and trying a more aggressive approach. Of course, you need to know what that looks like. So if you're not sure what that looks like, you don't have a teacher, then I don't recommend it. Anyways, yeah, so 2 modes of practice. I hope you're enjoying these talks. I'm enjoying giving them. It's kind of fun just to sit here in my studio at home and talk to my iPhone there. That's what I film things on. And I think more and more with my YouTube channel, I'm just going to put up these sort of talks. And my rules are no rules and have fun. So in other words, I'm not going to script anything. I'm not going to edit much. I'm just going to sit down and when I feel inspired to talk about something, I'm just going to record it and put it out there for you guys. Feel free to comment below in the comments or subscribe to the channel. I'll probably put more and more content out as we go, but you never know with me. I do have various projects on the go, teaching, my practice, my book writing, and this is just sort of one other avenue, one other channel to connect with you guys and share this wonderful tradition. So thanks. I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.